The Wife is First. Volume 1, Planning Ahead. Chapter 28, A Storm is Coming. The fourth prince received this congratulatory gift, but he couldn't be even a little bit happy about it. He was fully aware that this concubine was the one that the eldest prince had sent to Jing Shao that year. Now that Jing Shao had sent her to him untouched, he wouldn't even be able to throw this trouble out. Elder brothers could send their younger brothers beauties, yet there wasn't a basis for younger brothers to send their elder brothers a concubine. After him, there were no other younger brothers that had come of age yet. Meanwhile, Jing Shao had actually already finished copying the books for a while. It was just that after living so leisurely for such a long time, he did not want to go back to morning court anymore. Mu Hanzhong urged him to return to court at the earliest possible time. The situation in court changes in a blink of an eye. Now that the fourth prince has returned to court, it is still best for you to be careful. Thus, he left Jiruoyi with the Ghost of Nine Blades to learn the art of concealed weaponry, and also assigned Renfeng with secretly tidying up the desolate forest in the eastern suburbs. Only then did Jing Shao unwillingly pack up their luggage and return to his main estate with his wife. The fourth prince returned to court on the third day, as well as Prince Cheng, who had also finished copying the art of war 10 times. Emperor Hongzheng flipped through all of it in front of the whole court, asking a few questions about the content. When his imperial son managed to reply to all the questions quickly and fluently, his imperial heart became very pleased and bestowed upon Prince Cheng gifts of 10 bolts of satin from tributes as well as a bucket of pearls. All the court councillors were of opinion that although Prince Cheng wouldn't be able to inherit the throne, the emperor's doting on him never ceased. Only Jing Shao knew that his imperial father was rewarding him because of his standpoint on the 3 vassal states. This was nothing more than just encouraging him with some flattery, that's all. This satin from the tributes was very good. Jing Shao intended to have a few new sets of clothing made for him and Jun Qing with them. As for this bucket of pearls, he actually didn't have much use with it. Nowadays the womenfolk in his estate only had Song Lingxin left, and every time he saw her, he couldn't help but be annoyed. So, he let Mu Hanzhong take this bucket of first-rate pearls to the Marquis of Beiwei residence and gifted them to his father-in-law's sisters and wives. Mu Hanzhong knew that his husband wanted him to build a good reputation and naturally did not brush away his good intentions. He had Duo Fu go into the storeroom to pick a few other gifts to bring along. Then he took Yunzu with him to travel back to the Marquis of Beiwei residence. ******. With a bucket of pearls, 2 handfuls were given for each of his aunts, 1 handful for each of his sisters, 20 pearls for each of his father's concubines, and the rest, half went to his paternal grandmother to show filial piety and the other half was for the Marquioness of Beiwei. Oh, aren't these pearls from the tributes, each of them are so smooth and round and so plump. I also saw a few of these over at my mother's place. The big-mouthed third aunt held the pearls in her hands and fondled them admiringly while talking endlessly. As for the rest of the aunts and sisters, they also wore smiles, with each of them addressing Prince Consort Cheng very affectionately. Chu Yuniang had already recovered from her illness and was standing behind the Marquioness of Beiwei. She was wearing splendid clothing, and seeing her son with such an imposing aura, she finally felt relieved a little. Meanwhile, the Marquioness of Beiwei remained cold-faced from beginning to end. Without even some preamble, she began to criticize Mu Hanzhong. You are a man and can't leave children behind. As a wife, you should be more virtuous and kind. His Highness doesn't even have a single heir, yet you've practically caused all the concubines to be sent away. I don't even have the face to go out. I know that you are young and ignorant. The people who don't understand these things will think that I didn't teach my son well. The third wife, who had originally been talking to the fourth wife with radiant delight about a concoction using pearls that would help maintain a youthful appearance, stopped talking when she heard this. Once that conspicuously sharp voice stopped, the whole hall quieted. Although the Marquioness of Beiwei was the main wife, Mu Hanzhong was now the prince consort of an imperial prince and thus, outranked Madame Du. This caused everyone to be somewhat embarrassed and did not know what to do. Mu Hanjiang slowly put down his teacup and looked at Madame Du with incredulous expression. She was obviously saying this because Jing Xiao sent the fourth prince a concubine and was afraid that if her daughter was married over there, then she would suffer grievances. She was already acting as if the fourth prince had become her daughter's husband. Mother was overthinking things. This son had learned from the Analects of Confucius and 5 classics of Confucianism from a young age. The one who taught this son was a renowned scholar from our family. Even if this son is unable to perform the Confucian moral injunctions for wives, the madams in the capital will not mock you. Mu Hanjiang slowly rubbed his cup with his fingers, and with a somewhat pointed meaning he continued, the matters of Prince Cheng estate had always been decided by His Highness himself. There was no use for mother to get angry at the son with regards to this matter. The Marchioness of Beiwei placed the cup in her hand on the table heavily and glared at him for a while. Then she adjusted her tone and spoke, "It's not that I'm telling you off. Since you have already married, you have to think about your husband's family. His Highness is young, so you must advise him often. Since it is already no longer possible for him to obtain the throne, then we must make another path for ourselves. If Suzi can be married to the fourth prince, then His Highness and the fourth prince would have another point of connection. In the future, no matter what happens, then there will still be a way out for us." When Mu Hanjiang heard this remark, he only felt that it was incomparably ridiculous. Did Madame Du think he was a 3-year-old? Did being husbands of siblings make people closer than actually being blood brothers? In the imperial family, even full-blooded siblings plotted to destroy each other, so relationship through marriage was basically worthless. He could not help but sneer and said, with regards to a younger sister's marriage, how could a brother who had been married out make any decision about it? Besides, only imperial mother-in-law can make the decision about it. Even if His Highness says something about it, it is of no use. Madame Du was so angry that she couldn't even speak. However, everything that Mu Hanjiang had said was very reasonable. Her daughter's marriage was not yet determined, saying too much would affect her reputation as a lady. She could only glare at him for a long time and had no choice but to drop the subject. Mu Hanjiang was a man, so even though this was his natal home, he still could not stay too long in the inner courtyard. Guessing at the time, the Marquis of Beiwei should be returning home from attending the morning court session, and thus, he stood up and took his leave to see his father. Meanwhile, a major event had happened in the court that day. The king of the southwest sent a missive that the tribute sent from the southwest fiefdom had been plundered. They claimed that as their borderland was poor, they requested that this year's expected tribute be decreased. How does everyone view this matter? Emperor Hongzheng held the southwest king's pale yellow envelope with the missive and asked in a low voice. The southwest is close to Yunnan, Tibet, and that place nowadays is in upheaval. If the tribute has been plundered away, then there's truly no helping it. In this humble subject's opinion, the tribute this year can be decreased. The Minister of Revenue said elegantly. Daring to pilfer the tribute, this flock of petty thieves are truly savage. In this subject's opinion, we should send soldiers to go encircle and suppress them and resize the tribute. The Minister of War said resentfully. The renovations of the summer villa this year urgently requires the use of marble from the southwest. Even if the tribute is reduced, we must still have marble from the southwest sent to us. The Minister of Works said worriedly. Originally he thought that the marble could be delivered by the 6th lunar month, so he didn't buy any other stone materials. Now, even if it was sent again, he estimated that it would still take until the 7th month for the materials to arrive in the capital. No matter how they hurried to get it done, he feared that it would still delay the emperor's stay at the summer villa. All the officials clamored to have their opinions heard and argued endlessly. Emperor Hongzheng's brows knitted together tighter and tighter until his gaze swept towards the 3 princes and asked, "What do the 3 of you think?" The 4th prince had just returned to court and was impatient to prove himself. Seeing his imperial father was annoyed, he stepped forward and said, This prince heard news that the southwest has suffered a spring drought and that the common people are miserable. Now that the tribute has been robbed, it only made things worse. For lack of a better option, we should lower the tribute to demonstrate His Majesty's benevolence toward the common people of the southwest. Emperor Hongzheng's eyes deepened, one couldn't tell whether he was happy or angry. With regards to the fourth prince stepping forth and speaking before his elder brothers, there wasn't any deeper meaning to it. Turning to look at the second prince who had his eyes lowered but not speaking, he directly asked, "Jing Chen, what do you think?" Jing Chen stepped forward, bowed in etiquette and said, "The tribute that the imperial court collect is not to covet those riches but to keep the three vassal states in check, and to show the might of the heavens. Tribute that were robbed in transit is the responsibility of the southwest, not the imperial court. Therefore, this prince thinks that the tribute should not be reduced." His voice was steady and powerful, not too hurried or too slow, with a pause after each sentence, making his words resonate. The noisy court hall suddenly became absolutely silent. The icy and severe look in Emperor Hongzheng's eyes gradually warmed, revealing a gratified appearance, but he did not say anything. He proceeded to look at Jing Shao at the side, who had a face of impatience. "Jing Shao, what do you want to say?" "Humph, the journey to transport the tribute from the southwest to the capital doesn't even pass through the Yunnan-Tibet region. Moreover, half of the tribute is made of marble weighing up to 1,000 caddies. What kind of mountain burglar would want to rob this kind of tribute?" Jing Shao stood in his original place and also did not make any salute. He opened his mouth and just spoke, with an appearance as if he had been annoyed by all the court officials. Upon hearing such a frank and boorish manner of speaking, Emperor Hongzheng not only did not get angry but on the contrary actually hooked up the corner of his mouth and said, "Like this, do you all understand?" The final result was that Emperor Hongzheng wanted to send people to investigate the matter of the robbery of the tribute but did not mention who would be sent to do this investigation. As the Southwest King had already sent the marble materials first, the matter of reducing the tribute was not mentioned anymore but was pushed down for the time being. After dismissing the court session, Emperor Hongzheng called on the second prince, Jing Chen, to come to the imperial study alone. Jing Shao patted the dejected fourth prince on the shoulder, then turned to grab a hold of the Marquis of Beiwei, who was about to go home. "Does His Highness have any advice?" Mu Jin politely walked out with Jing Shao. Father-in-law need not be so serious. Today, Jun Qing returned to the Marquis of Beiwei estate. This prince will just go with you on the way to pick him up. Jing Shao smiled lightly. Hanzhong went to my residence. Upon hearing this, Mu Jin couldn't help but show a somewhat pleased expression. "That's great. Your Highness can stop by for lunch before going back. Then I won't be polite. The time was just right to have a couple of drinks with father-in-law. I keep thinking about the hard liquor from the northwest that we had last time." Jing Shao laughed and let the Marquis of Beiwei walk ahead as he mounted onto his horse. Mu Jin looked at Jing Shao, who was respectful and cordial, and then glanced at the fourth prince, who was still walking with his head lowered not too far away. He could not help but frown slightly before he turned away to get on his carriage. ******. The old Marchioness' health had become poor from a few years ago. She was bedridden all year round and hardly received any visitors. Mu Hanzhong went to visit his grandmother and offered up the rare medicinal herbs he had brought. The gray-haired old lady grabbed his hand to chat for a moment. "Grandmother is old now and couldn't manage much anymore, but you've married into the royal family, you must be careful in speaking and doing things. You should also take care of your husband. Since you are married, be together in happiness and sorrows, and must not harbor resentment. It's not easy for Prince Cheng to be of the imperial family. When Empress Yuan was still alive, what circumstances was he in? How does he live nowadays? People's hearts are made of flesh. If you treat him well, he also won't treat you badly." The old Marchioness spent her whole life in the Marquis household and she was able to see things extremely clearly. "This grandson understands, grandmother need not worry, His Highness treats this grandson very well. Mu Hanzhong grasped his grandmother's hand with both his hands and warmth bubbled forth from his heart. Since he was young, his grandmother had loved him dearly, although perhaps not as much as the legitimate grandson of the main wife. However, she has never once been excessively biased. If there were people who tried to make things difficult for him, his grandmother would still try to protect him, so that he suffered a lot less grievances. The old Marchioness was getting late in her years now and she became weak after just saying a few words. Mu Hanzhong helped his grandmother to lie down and rest, then he withdrew. Once he walked into the front courtyard, he ran into his flock of cousins who had just come back from their studies. "Oh, if it isn't the prince consort. What happened? Did you suffer some grievance at the prince's estate and came back to your mother's house to cry about it?" Mu Yangwen saw Mu Hanzhong and fell into his habit of trying to jab at him with a couple of pointed sentences. Upon hearing this, his younger brothers behind him could not help but roar with laughter. End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 1, Planning Ahead. Chapter 29, Perfumed Bomb. Mu Hanzhong looked at the arrogant Mu Yangwen coldly. Then he walked slowly over, raised his hand and slapped him right on his smugly laughing face. Mu Yangwen was stunned by the slap. When he came to, he exclaimed, "Mu Hanzhong, you dare hit me?" Pack. Another slap made Mu Yangwen completely stunned. "I am your elder. How can you just speak to me like that? Hasn't third uncle ever taught you what filial piety is?" Mu Hanzhong looked down from above at his cousin who was reeling from being hit. "Mu Hanzhong, don't go too far." On the other side, when Mu Huafeng saw his younger brother was hit, he raised his fist and was about to make a move. The two imperial guards behind Mu Hanzhong pulled out the swords at their waists, which scared everyone to recoil back half a step. The younger of them even began to cry right away. "Everyone, stop!" The Marquis of Beiwei's deep and resounding voice came from behind as he walked forth, spitting with anger. People in the Mu family habitually trembled when they heard the voice of the head of the household. Yet hearing it today, they all felt relieved. "Jun Qing." Jing Shao rushed over and hugged his wife within his arms. "Are you all right?" Mu Hanzhong pursed his lips tightly as he found it difficulty not to tilt his lips upward. Whatever way one looked at the situation, it was him who was teaching others a lesson. This man was really. When Jing Shao saw that the person in his embrace was all right, he turned to Mu Yangwen who was covering his face and at Mu Huafeng who had forgotten to take back his fist. "Father-in-law, leaving aside the fact that Jun Qing is my prince consort, do the people in the Marquis of Beiwei family do not know how to respect their elder brothers? The way that filial piety is observed in the Mu family is really opening this imperial prince's eyes." Mu Jin was so angry that his face turned green one second and white the next. He pointed to his two nephews and said, "You two, go and devote yourselves with the air in copying the scriptures for filial piety for 50 times. You will not have dinner until you have finished copying it." Mu Yangwen still wanted to say something but was glared at by Mu Jin and had to follow his brothers by turning away and leaving. "Wait." Jing Shao let go of his wife and stopped them with a shout. "The laws of the family is one thing but the laws of the country is another thing. Isn't it a crime to disrespect an imperial prince consort?" Without Mu Lingbao around, the two brothers had no backbone. They looked at each other and finally felt afraid. Together, they looked pleadingly to their uncle for help. "Your Highness, please quell your anger, these children are ignorant." Mu Jin also felt somewhat awkward being in such a situation, and looked at Mu Hanzhong who was standing half a step behind Jing Shao. Seeing the situation, Mu Hanzhong went up and grabbed Jing Shao's arm to gently urge him, "It's all right. We are brothers from the same family. Your Highness, please don't be angry anymore." Hearing these words, Jing Shao patted his slender hand and said, "If the prince consort doesn't care to bother with this, then this matter will be considered over." If in the future this imperial prince sees anyone disrespecting Prince Consort Chang, don't blame this imperial prince for becoming hostile with them. The flock of cousins all shrank back their heads, and after getting Mu Jin's approval, they all left in despair. Third brother, didn't uncle send someone to tell us that we had a distinguished guest coming that we should accompany today, so he gave us a half-day off? Why aren't we accompanying the guest now? The youngest brother asked in a small voice. Hush! The brothers on either side of him busily covered his mouth and they disappeared into the courtyard. This old official is lax in the management of this household and made His Highness see something embarrassing. Mu Jin sighed and looked at the beautiful Mu Hanjiang standing tall and dignified beside Jing Shao, showing an extraordinary bearing. He could not help feeling a little sad. In this generation of the Mu family, none of the legitimate children lives up to expectations. Now, it seemed that the one whose demeanor befitted the Mu family the most was this illegitimate son who had been already married off. When they returned to the Prince Cheng estate in the afternoon, Steward Yun rushed up and said, "Your Highness, His Highness the Second Prince sent a person here for you today and wanted you to go there as soon as possible once you've returned." Jing Shao knitted his brows and Mu Hanjiang said, "Since brother is looking for you for some urgent matter, you better go quickly." Jing Shao nodded, then he turned around to get on Xiao He and rode out again. Mu Hanjiang took an afternoon nap in the bedroom. He had just gotten up when he heard from Yunzu that Zhou Jin had come to visit. He quickly dressed up and went to the tea room of the Tingfeng Pavilion. "Has Zhou Dager been waiting for long?" Mu Hanjiang apologetically asked. "I just arrived. Wei restaurant is the kind of business in which I only get leisure time in the afternoon." Zhou Jin smiled brightly. When Mu Hanjiang heard his words, he relaxed and asked if there was anything he needed. "Didn't you say you wanted to open a small shop last time?" Zhou Jin drank a mouthful of tea. The tea varieties served in the prince's estates were all tribute tea distributed by the Imperial Household Department. They were products of the highest quality that couldn't be bought from the market. Zhou Jin paid particular attention to food and drink, so he naturally could taste the difference, and could not help but drink a few more mouthfuls. He continued, "All the products that should be in the capital are already in the capital. If the small shop does not have a long-established reputation, it would be difficult to do business unless they sell some rare items." Rare items? When Mu Hanjiang noticed that he liked the tea and he gave Yunzu a meaningful glance. Yunzu readily comprehended the gesture and turned to leave. If the good is something that is not readily available in the capital, then that should be good to sell. "When I was in Jiangnan, I did see such item," Zhou Jin said, a narrow smile couldn't help but flash by on his face. "Last night, as I was going to bed, I suddenly thought of it." "Oh." Mu Hanjiang was actually somewhat curious now. "Something from Jiangnan, that is rarely seen in the capital. Why hasn't anyone sold it here yet?" Zhou Jin smiled and took a sip of tea before he said two words, "Perfumed bomb." "Perfumed bomb." Mu Hanjiang paused. What was that? He really hasn't heard of it before. "Haha, this thing sells very well in Jiangnan. When I came with my husband to the capital, only then did I find out that northerners seldom use it. The only thing that's sold in town is perfumed oil that doesn't really have any scent." The corner of Zhou Jin's lips hooked up into an evil smile, delicately elaborating on the ideal usages of this kind of perfumed bomb. In Jiangnan, there are several well-known workshops specializing in perfumed bombs, which incorporate seasonal flowers and plants into them, so there were different variety of them. Oily bombs were different from oils as they can be carried in boxes and melts when heated, making them more convenient to use. It's just that this item is small and its price was not high. Merchants didn't think much of this small profit margin and refused to travel so far just to trade with them. There were few flowers and plants in the north, which was probably why there were no shops that makes them. After listening for some time, Mu Hanjiang finally realized what this thing was and his handsome face could not help but turned red. This so-called perfumed bombs were used by men as lubrication for intimate activities. Merchants looked for high profit margins, so although this kind of thing would be very popular in the capital where there are many male wives, it could not be helped that the cost of the long journey it would take to bring these items over would cut into the profit. That's why very few merchants sell them. Zhou Jing gifted a box of unopened perfumed balm to Mu Hanjiang. Mu Hanjiang looked at his calm face and he secretly scolded himself. They were both men, he need not be so bashful. So, he pressed down on his embarrassment and accepted it calmly. Then he asked Yunzu for the tea he had gotten and gave it as a return gift. Zhou Jin also did not refuse it. He straightforwardly took the box of tea leaves and told him to go find him once he had thought it over. Then he set off to his busy business at the Huiwei restaurant. Jing Shao rushed to the second prince's residence as he couldn't help but be somewhat worried when he learned that his imperial father was sending his brother to investigate the robbery of the tribute. Imperial father is giving me a chance to obtain a title. This is a good thing. It will always be better than going to a war campaign like what the eldest prince is doing. Jing Chen, seeing that his little brother was concerned about him, felt extremely happy in his heart. The king of Southwest was a cunning man. Since he had already acted, he would have certainly devised a backup plan. No matter what his elder brother said, Jing Shao's brows wouldn't relax. How many troops does Imperial Father plan to send? This matter can only be made clear by investigating in secret, so I've only been given 4 Imperial bodyguards and 1 accompanying third-rank official. Jing Chen said. How could that be? Jing Shao almost jumped up. His brother's martial arts ability was not good and yet he was only given 4 Imperial guards. If they ran into some mountain bandits, they would not be able to deal with them. What more if he had to contend with the Southwest King who held massive military powers in his hands? I'll give you 500 soldiers who would follow you at a distance so that if anything happens then they can come. Where can 500 people hide? No. Jing Chen refused without even thinking about it. After a long bargaining process, the 2 brothers each took a step back and compromise. Jing Shao would send 2 martial arts experts to follow at his brother's side and another 50 soldiers would be dispersed in advance in the southwest and would await their summons. Jing Shao still felt uneasy when he left the second prince's estate. He had Yun Song go to his summer villa and assigned Renfeng to pick 2 of their best experts. When he returned to the bedroom in the east courtyard, he saw his wife was sitting under the candlelight in a daze holding a small exquisite box in his hand. Quietly he walked over, grabbed the box with one motion and turned it around in his hand. What is this? He opened the lid of the box. Inside was a translucent greasy cream that released a burst of delicate fragrance which was not sickeningly sweet and was even somewhat alluring instead. This is... Mu Hanjiang jumped, having been startled. When he recovered, his face quickly flushed red. A product Zhou Dager gave me today. Oh. Jing Shao raised his eyebrows and slowly moved closer to his wife's ear. Blowing on his flushed agate-like ear he asked, then, why is your face this red? Mu Hanjiang smoothed his lips and glared at Jing Shao. Then he grabbed back the box in his hand and turned back into the inner room, ignoring him. Jing Shao was stunned. Had his wife finally learned how to be temperamental with him? He pressed his fist on his lips to muffle his laughter, then he entered the inner bedroom. Naturally, he recognized it. Although no one sold it in the capital, the Imperial Household Department bought some of it every year. The law stipulated that people could marry male wives but they were not allowed to take male concubines. However, those restrictions didn't apply to the Son of Heaven and there were many male concubines in the imperial palace. Moreover, him being an imperial prince who had married a male wife, the imperial household department would naturally bestow many of these kinds of things. Just in the cabinet above their bed, there were several boxes of good perfumed ointment. Entering the inner room, he saw his wife lying on the bed with his clothes still on. He was still in a huff while facing the wall and ignoring him. His ears that peeked through were still as pink as before though. Jing Shao restrained his laughter and pounced on the bed, hugging the man on the bed into his arms. "I won't tease you anymore. It truly is seldom sold in the capital. If you want to do this business, it would be very easy for you to do so. The military general who is stationed in Jiangnan has a good relationship with me. He sends letters every 10 days. I can just ask him to also send some of that over each time." "How can that be? If he refuses to accept money, then won't it be considered as accepting bribes?" Mu Hanjiang turned his head over and frowned. This small thing did not cost much. Whether from the perspective of a friend or a subject, the military general in Jiangnan won't definitely ask for money to get these. He just wanted to find a way to earn a living, but if it would bring trouble to Jing Shao, then it wouldn't be worth it. Seeing Jun Qing was thinking like this for his behalf, Jing Shao couldn't help kissing the corner of his lips and said, "You can be at ease. This fellow is famous for being stingy. He will absolutely make sure you give him the money and will even make sure that it was not one went short. Perhaps he will even ask extra for travel expenses." End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 1, Planning Ahead. Chapter 30, Urgent Missive from the Southwest. Once the supply of goods was secured, opening a store became an easy thing to do. Thanks to Zhou Jian, Mu Hanjiang found a 2-room store on the same street as Huawei restaurant, right in front of it. Then he had steward Yun go find a famous carpenter and silverware shop in the capital to order a batch of customized wooden and silver boxes. "What does your highness want to use these boxes for?" Yunzu, who held a stack of completed boxes, asked Mu Hanjiang. The craftsmanship of the boxes was very refined, so much so that it was even more expensive than the perfumed bomb itself. Wouldn't the prince consort lose money if it was like this? Mu Hanjiang held a silver box and smiled but did not speak. He only had Yunzu carry these to his old wet nurse's courtyard. The perfumed bombs sent from Jiangnan were mostly stored in bamboo tubes or iron boxes. The cost of this was not high, and even if the price was raised, people could easily buy up to 100 or so wen of it. However, if the container was changed into an exquisite box, then it wouldn't be the same anymore. A great majority of people who lived in the capital were high-ranking officials and noblemen. The more expensive the item, the more people would buy it. In the blink of an eye it was already the middle of the 5th lunar month, and the shop had already been put into order and was ready. Once the second cargo of goods arrived, Mu Hanjiang's small shop selling perfumed balm would officially open for business. The shop's interior was elegantly decorated. The entrance was half covered with a bamboo hanging screen, and above the door hung an inscribed bamboo sign. On it were written 3 refined and powerful words, Mo Lian Establishment. The Mo character referred to the Mo garden where the male wives often gathered, while the Lian character expressed the delicate fragrance of the items. Because, during this month's gathering, Mu Hanjiang brought some perfumed balm packaged in wooden boxes and gifted it to some male wives, that the news of his shop passed quickly from mouth to mouth, until the day he opened the business. An assortment of people had come, wherein some was there to make purchases, while some were just there to check out the excitement. There were so many people that the roads in front of the shop entrance were all blocked. The way he had done this was different from how other shops opened for business by lighting firecrackers and having lion dances. Mu Hanjiang instead invited a famous musician in the capital to come and play in front of the store entrance, so that the faint music lingered in one's ear, making it incomparably sophisticated. When people saw this kind of scene, they also could not bear to make a ruckus, but only quietly watched from the side. The fragrant ointment inside the shop was separated into a few different categories, such as those in iron boxes, wooden boxes, and silver boxes. Each was priced differently. The ones in the iron boxes cost 100 or so wen, those in wooden boxes went up to 2 taels of silver, and those in the silver boxes cost 2 tens of silver taels up to 100 taels. ******. Since his elder brother went to the southwest, Jing Shao had to go to court every day and confront the 4th prince alone. He didn't even have anyone who would give him cues secretly, and this made him so unhappy to the extent that every morning he would dawdle around in bed, not wanting to go to court. Mu Hanzhong had to call him 3 to 4 times before he would get up. In these recent days though, Jing Xiao had suddenly become enthusiastic about attending court session. That's because an urgent report had arrived from the southwest. The eldest prince had met with danger in the Yunnan Tibet region, and it was unknown whether he was still alive or not. The eldest prince wrote reports every day without fail to be forwarded to the imperial capital. However, several days have now passed in which no news had come. Today, a report from the governor of the Yunnan Tibet region was delivered which brought light to what had happened. As soon as the eldest prince arrived in the Yunnan Tibet region, he was in a hurry to attack the southern barbarians and did not listen to any advice. The southwestern forests were filled with miasma, and as such, it was not long before the troops fell ill after breathing in the miasmic air. Last month the eldest prince had brought troops into the mountains and got embroiled in a fierce battle that was still in progress to this day. This report had been urgently sent over 3,000 li, yet it was still delayed by 7 or 8 days. Thus, whether the eldest prince was still alive or dead, it was simply impossible to tell. Imperial Father, since this matter has reached this point, we must immediately send reinforcement troops, otherwise eldest brother will be in peril. The fourth Prince Jingyu knelt on the floor and spoke with great worry. Regardless of whether it was an act or not, that woeful, pitiful appearance of his that showed that he was about to cry seemed incomparably sincere. Sending troops right now might already be too late. We have to mobilize the troops nearby. The Minister of War said with a low voice. How useless! Emperor Hongzheng was so angry that he threw the report in his hands onto the ground. The court hall became silent momentarily. A prince was sent to this military campaign originally in order to intimidate the southern barbarians and to appease the popular sentiment. Now, the eldest prince had already gotten caught into a bitter struggle after only being there for a month, meeting with danger that left him in a life or death situation. It brought boundless trouble to the court. The courtiers' expression didn't express anything, but in their hearts, they felt that this eldest prince was truly incompetent. Imperial Father, please quell your anger. This prince actually has a way. Jing Xiao, seeing that the timing was not bad, took the opportunity to step forwards and bow before speaking. Speak. Emperor Hongzheng sighed deeply and looked towards Jing Xiao. The southwest feudal territory is the closest to the Yunnan Tibet region. This prince heard that the southwest have a well-trained and powerful army. It would be better to have the southwest king send some troops to reinforce elder brother. Jing Xiao lowered his head, covering up the cold light in his eyes. He knew very well how the southwest king was like after dealing with him for several years. He was cunning and petty. If he were asked to send his soldiers, he would certain to repeatedly find a way to shirk this duty. The southwest was 3,000 li from the capital. Even if he evaded the decree once, the delay of the back and forth of communication added on to delaying the sending of the soldiers, would at least take a month. Until that time, whether the eldest prince would survive would be up to his own luck. Emperor Hongzheng frowned. He still was extremely skeptical about the matter of the southwest's tribute. Having the southwest king send troops, he could conveniently use it as a pretext to determine whether or not the southwest king truly had intentions of rebelling. After sending Jing Xiao an appreciative look, Emperor Hongzheng issued an imperial decree, commanding the southwest king to promptly send troops to reinforce the eldest prince and subdue the rebellion of the southern barbarians. If they successfully rescued the eldest prince, then the southwest would be exempted from offering tribute for the rest of the year. ******. Jing Xiao returned to his estate in a good mood. Seeing his wife sitting on the soft divan smiling with his eyes curved at an account book, his hands couldn't help but feel itchy. He snatched away the account book and said, "How can you be this happy by just looking at this account book? Could it be that this account book is even more good looking than me?" Mu Hanzhong glanced at the rascal who had an increasingly thick skin, and did not get angry. If we're comparing people, then you are more good-looking than anyone else, but... He drew out the last syllable, then while grinning at Jing Xiao, he snatched back the account book with one movement. This account book isn't a person. Saying this, he began looking at it again. They had only just opened for business today, and the business was already extremely popular. The base value of those products were not high, with just the boxes costing them a bit more. However, when everything got tallied together, it just fell short of 3 times the selling price. He truly earned quite a bit. Humph. Jing Xiao threw himself at his wife on the soft divan with discontent and said, "Eldest brother has gotten into difficulties in the Yunnan Tibet region. It's not known whether he's dead or alive." "Is that so?" Upon hearing these words, Mu Hanzhong moved his gaze away from the account book. Jing Xiao more or less recounted what had happened in court, then he lightly sighed and said, "If the Southwest King angers imperial father, the withdrawal of the vassal states would be imminent." Mu Hanzhong controlled the emotion in his eyes and quietly asked, "In this kind of situation, a military campaign to take back the vassal territory is inevitable. Will your highness be going?" Jing Xiao sat up, took a deep breath and slowly nodded. "If a war started, then I will certainly go. It is after all to seize back and subdue the vassal states." The bright candlelight shone on the side of Jing Xiao's unswervingly determined face. With unconcealed pride, and a steady and powerful voice, he intoned this as if he were already on the battlefield, facing 300,000 soldiers with his heroic spirit soaring as he declared war. Mu Hanzhong looked at him steadily. Then he pursed his lips and after a long while said, "You are a capable person, it is I who has ruined things for you." This man's talent was not inferior to the grand ancestor. It's a pity that he was born at the wrong time. Jun Cheng. Hearing this sentence, Jing Xiao's heart felt an indescribable pain. During that year when they were on an overhanging cliff on the Fengyu mountain, Jun Qing had spoken like this, that he was a capable person and that he had ruined things for him. Thus, he couldn't help but raise his voice. When Mu Hanzhong heard him yell, he raised his head to look up and met with a pair of slightly red eyes. He realized that he had said the wrong words. He panicked immediately, not knowing what to do. "Xiao Xiao. Jing Xiao pulled the person who was talking nonsense into his arms and tightly embraced him, as if wanting to carve himself into his flesh and bone. "You are not allowed to speak like this again, do you understand?" Feeling the arms embracing him was tightening, Mu Hanzhong was squeezed until it became painful. He couldn't help frowning, yet he did not cry out in pain. He just stretched out his arms to hug his husband back. "I understand. I won't speak like that ever again," and as he finished what he had to say, he couldn't help but let out a smothered groan. Only then did Jing Xiao snap out of it and hurriedly loosen his hold. "Did I hurt you?" Mu Hanzhong shook his head, but Jing Xiao forcibly took off his clothes and saw 2 deep red marks on the originally fair skin of his upper arms. Moreover, they were gradually turning into purple bruises. Jing Xiao felt exceedingly distressed, so he brought some medicinal potion and carefully massaged it for him. As he was rubbing his upper arms, the mood suddenly shifted. Jing Xiao's distressed eyes gradually darkened while his fingers that were moistened with the medicated potion slowly glided to his husband's shoulders, and then from his shoulders slid towards his chest. Mu Hanzhong quickly gripped the hand that was playing with one red nub, then he looked left and right. This was the outer room where the maidservants could come in at any time. They couldn't do this here. Yet Jing Xiao did not plan on stopping. He pulled him into his embrace and then he sucked at one ear that had turned pink. "Jun Qing, can we consummate our marriage today?" Scenes of when they were on the cliff flickered across Jing Xiao's mind over and over again. He felt so distressed that it felt like the pain couldn't increase any further. He wanted to possess the person in his arms, he wanted to connect with him, he wanted to confirm that he was still alive and within his embrace. He wanted to be able to confirm that this wasn't some kind of illusion, and that all those tragedies had not yet occurred. Mu Hanzhong opened his eyes widely. When he heard these words, it was as if he had been struck by a bolt of lightning. Consummate their marriage. They had already been married for 2 months or so. Apart from that night in the bridal chamber, they truly have not done the deed to the end again. On one hand, he was very afraid of feeling that kind of pain wherein it felt as if his body was being torn apart. Moreover, Jing Shao knew that he was afraid, so hadn't ever forced him afterwards. He pretended as if he didn't know what he was doing and muddled through those things with him. He turned his head to look at the person hugging him, and he gazed straight at those beautiful eyes. He found that aside from the usual tenderness and warmth, there was also an extra thread of fear. The movements he made when lightly kissing him were also somewhat frantic, seeming as if he were anxious to confirm something. Mu Hanzhong knew that if he was not willing, Jing Shao would not force him, but seeing the way Jing Shao was today, he really could not bear to reject him again. At worst, it would just be enduring one night, and he very much wanted to offer him comfort. Mu Hanzhong was silent for a while. When Jing Shao was about to give up, he slowly nodded and said with a small voice, "Can we go to the bed?" For a split second, Jing Shao was shocked and just stared blankly. Then he picked up his wife into his arms and stood up with a whoosh. He ran to inner room using King Kong, and then he kicked the door shut with a bang. End chapter.